Casey's Audio Vault.
Tim McIlrath of Rise Against.
March 25th, 2009.
Hey, this is Tim from Rise Against.
Hello, Tim. This is Casey from Power 97.
Hey, Casey.
How are things going over there?
Things are good. I'm on a shuttle bus with my band and the International Noise Conspiracy on our way to a hotel.
Where did you guys just come from? Because you just got off a plane, right?
Yeah, we did. We played Adelaide last night here in Australia. We just landed in Melbourne, and we got a day off here in Melbourne. We're going to go see some Australian rules football, and then we play here tomorrow night.
Well, that sounds a lot nicer than where we're at here in Winnipeg with, we just got another foot of snow.
I heard that you guys had snow. What's the deal with that? Isn't it a little late for snow?
Sometimes, it is springtime, but every once in a while, at the end of March or sometimes April, we get another blizzard. And it's actually affecting most of, middle America, because I think Chicago ended up getting a bit of snow as well.
Really? Oh, no. I'll have to check in.
That's still home base for you, right?
Sure is.
Rise Against being a part of Rock on the Range Canada, including Billy Talent, Rancid, Theory of a Dead Man, Shinedown, Thornley, a bunch of acts. You have been doing some touring with Rancid. Is that already, or are you coming back to the States for that?
We'll come back to the States for that. So that hasn't begun yet. It'll begin early June. We'll start in Vancouver.
How did you get hooked up with Rancid?
Geez, it was like a fantasy tour idea. That's kind of what it started as. It was kind of, we were sort of out of ideas, for this summer about what to do and who to go on tour with, and we were kind of at our wits' end. We couldn't figure out, what to do this summer and how to bring an original tour, a fresh, unique tour, across North America. And finally, somebody asked us, well, if you could tour with any band right now, who would it be? Just anybody, all issues aside. And we said, well, it'd be Rancid. We want to go on the road with Rancid, but I don't know if that would ever happen. It's a fantasy idea. And lo and behold, somebody asks Rancid, and they're not just into the idea, but they're super excited about the idea. And we just could not believe it. It was certainly sort of a dream come true, especially for guys who've looked up to that band for years. And I used to go see Rancid when I was 16 years old down in Chicago. Joe's old band has opened up for them. They've definitely been on our radar for a long time.
Have they been active over the past few years, or they just sort of get back together recently?
They're back together and doing a new record.
Oh, nice.
So, and so the tour will coincide with their record release, as far as I know.
I'm sure you get this a lot, but you kind of moved your way up through the punk labels from Fat Records to the major. Has anything changed for you on tour? I guess you're being flown around.
Well, we still tour a lot in the same ways. Here in Australia we fly, but elsewhere it's us in a bus every day. But nothing has really changed. The only thing that's changed is that your band is sort of all of a sudden exposed to a much broader audience, and in turn, it's exposed to a lot more people who are looking to exploit you. People who may not understand what your band is and who you are and what you're willing to do and not willing to do. A band like us, we're not really willing to compromise just about anything with what we do. And so we spend a lot of our time nowadays just saying no to things. Just people who don't really understand what the band is about. But it's been a great ride, and we've been able to get our music and our message out to so many people and do it on our own terms, and that's all anybody can ask for.
So has a soft drink company or GM asked you to endorse something, or what's something that you've kind of turned down?
Things like that happen all the time. Like a cell phone company wants us to sign autographs at their booth, and they're going to pay us money to do it. It's like, oh, we'll give you $300, to come over and sign autographs, and we're going to give your fans brochures for our cell phone company. And it's just kind of like, we don't want to do that. That stuff that was even coming to us when we really needed that $300. Sometimes there were festivals that we were only getting paid $150 to play. And it was like, well, should we do this? We got to make ends meet. But in the end, we realized it wasn't right for us. We've turned down lots of different things, whether it's video games we don't agree with, or movies we don't feel like represents the band. There's just certain things, definitely some companies, here and there that are just not for us. Tours, bands that we don't really feel like we identify with. It's a case by case situation.
I guess it's a bonus now that you are reaching all these other people and the ideals that you have for the world and society. You can get those things across.
Exactly, and I think not only so much as that we're getting ideas across, but we're bringing people out of the woodwork who already have the same ideas and are just looking for people to share those ideas with, or at least looking to see that they're not alone. You know, like I don't think that we're bringing a lot of new and fresh ideas to the table. I think what we're doing is kind of showing you, like, hey, if you're in some small town and you don't agree with the way the world is going, the direction that it's going, and know that you're not alone. Don't feel like a freak, because we're here and we feel the same way.
Well, it just seems new on the radio, like mainstream radio. You don't necessarily hear that kind of perspective. It's not necessarily new, but it's catching on, being conscious of what's happening around you.
That's a good point too. You're right. We are a little sort of like a fish out of the water on mainstream radio. You don't find a lot of bands that are addressing the world's problems on the radio. In fact, you find a lot of music that's doing the exact opposite, that's sort of either ignoring it or afraid to alienate their audience, by taking sides and putting their opinions out there. And for us, that's what we do, is put our opinions out there. We take sides. We take a stand on things, and we talk about issues that we don't feel are being represented in mainstream media or even music. But I don't think we're the only ones either. I think there are bands out there that are doing this. I think that even a band like Billy Talent, who are obviously all over your radio, such a subversive band with some great lyrics and some great ideas being put forth. I think the musical landscape needs more bands like that. I think the audience wants it and craves it. In a lot of ways, I attribute our success to the world creating an audience of people who are demanding more from their music.
You mentioned picking sides. Rise Against was a band behind Barack Obama's presidency. How do you think he is doing so far?
I think, especially considering the alternative, which was a McCain-Palin administration, we are way better off, and the decisions being made are definitely we're on way more of a right path than we would be with our alternative. I think that there's going to be hiccups and different obstacles along the way, but I still think that the best man won.
Rise Against is a hard touring band, and you really put your vocal cords through the ringer at your shows. Do you ever get off the road and just be like, I can't even speak to my kids?
Yeah, I definitely have those days for sure. I'm not invincible. I go up there and I do what I can. I take care of it. I'm really careful about it. That's for sure, because I realize that no matter what I do all day, every night I got to go and deliver an hour and a half show to hundreds, if not thousands, of paying customers that came to see a show. And if I'm not there because I was careless the night before, then I let people down. And that's something that I only can put on myself. And so, I think, as any singer will tell you, it's the voice is a crazy, weird tool that no one truly understands. It's all about just trying to maintain that and being careful about it.
Well, Tim, I really appreciate you giving us a call from the other side of the world in Australia, and we're here in Winnipeg. We're looking forward to Rock on the Range with your buddies Billy Talent and Rancid.
It's going to be an amazing show. It's going to be a great tour, and we look forward to seeing all of our fans. We have such great fans in Winnipeg and such memorable experiences in your town, and so we can't wait to see everybody yet again.
All the interviews you want on iTunes and at Power97.com. Casey's Audio Vault.
Casey Norman is Power 97's music director and can be heard every weekday from 2 till 6 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Power 97 is Winnipeg's best rock.